Jaya Radha Kunjabihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
No. Told them to come at this time?
No, I have to tell them exact time.
What?
I need to tell them exact time and I just invited them to come. Таким сразу Владика ставил класс.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
I'm just trying to find them, but couldn't find anything yet.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
110.9.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Skondarindagi,
Jai,
Prabhupada ki,
Jai,
and Raji Mata ki,
Jai.
Today's appearance of Srimati Radharani, and that means fasting till noon. So the devotees are cooking a bit of a feast to offer to the deities just now, or have just been cooking. So we're going to extend the morning program a little bit. We'll do some bhajans, and we'll have a class about Radharani, so we can understand, well, not that we can understand her position, but so we can understand some of the things we shouldn't think in that regard. That's probably the more important part of it. So first of all, we have this Bhajan Radhastami. We can do that.
Right.
I'd just like to mention that this kind of version of a mic stand is very unstable. It's all like here. Then it rests on these 3 points. Then there's less chance of it getting knocked over. It's more stable. You've always used microphone stands all their life. You should learn how to use them properly. So we have Radhastami on the screen.
Yes, coming up.
So there's a refrain and some verses. And we can join in the verses and the refrain. When the refrain comes, we can sing it all together. Let's try and do that. Can someone play cartels? So first of all, let's just read the translation. O Radha, O beloved of Madhava, O you who are worshipped by all the young girls of Gokula, all glories unto you, all glories unto you. You who dress yourself in such a way as to increase Lord Damodar's love and attachment for you, O Queen of Vrindavan, which is the pleasure grove of Lord Hari, O Newman that has arisen from the ocean of King Vrishabhanu, O friend of Lalita, O you who make Vishaka loyal to you due to your wonderful qualities of friendliness, kindness, and faithfulness to Krishna, O you who are filled with compassion, O you whose divine characteristics are described by the great sages Sanat and Sanatan, O Radha, please be merciful to me. So, during the class, we will speak a little bit about this. Bhajan, I think this was written by a group of Swami, is that right?
Gotcha.
Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava
Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava
Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava
Amita Vishake Radhe Jaya Jaya Radhe Jaya Jaya Radhe Jaya Jaya Radhe Jaya Jaya Karuna Bharite Sanaka Sanatana Vanita Charite Karuna Bharite Sanaka Sanatana Vanita Charite Karuna Gurumai Karuna Bharite Sanaka Sanatana Vanita Charite Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Gokula Taruni Mandala Mahite Gokula Taruni Mandala Mahite Gokula Taruni Mandala Mahite Radhe Jaya Jaya Radhe Jaya Jaya Radhe Jaya Jaya Radhe Shyam Jaya Radhe Shyam Radhe Shyam Jaya Radhe Shyam Jaya Radhe Shyam Radhe Shyam Radhe Shyam Jaya Radhe Shyam Radhe Shyam
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 10, Departure of Lord Krishna for Dwarka. Subhadra, Draupadi, Kunti, Subhadra, Draupadi, Kunti, Virata, Tanaya, Tata, Virata, Tanaya, Tata, Gandhari, Dhritarashtrash, Gandhari, Dhritarashtrash, Yutsur, Gautamo, Hare Krishna. Yamo, Yutsur Gautamo Yamo, Vrikudarash cha domyash cha Vrikudarash cha domyash cha Striyo matsya tadaya Striyo matsya tadaya Na Vimuyanto Nasehi Vimuyanto Viharam Sharanga Dandana Viharam Sharanga Dandana Subhadra Draupadi Kunti
Subhadra Draupadi Kunti
Virata Tanaya Tata
Virata Tanaya Tata
Gandhari Dhritarashtrascha
Gandhari Dhritarashtrascha
Yutsu Gautamo Yamo
Yutsu Gautamo Vidu
Vikudarascha Domyascha
Vikudarashtrascha
Striyomatsya Shatadaya Nasiri Vimuyanto Viharam Sharangadam Viraham Sharangadanava
Viraham Sharangadanava Subhadra Draupadi Kunti Virata Tanaya Tata Gandhari Dhritarashtrascha Yutsu Gautamo Yama Vrikodarashcha Domyascha Yomatsya Sutadaya Nasihirim Vimuhyanto Viraram Sharangadanava
Subhadra Draupadi Kunti Virata Tanaya Tata Gandhari Dhritarashtrascha
Gandhari Dhritarashtrascha
Yutsu Gautamo Yama
Yutsu Gautamo
Vrikudarashcha Domyascha
Domyascha
Striyomatsya Sutadaya
Striyomatsya Sutadaya
Niseri Vimuyanto Viram Sanga Tanavana
Ladies.
Subhadra Draupadi Kunti
Subhadra Draupadi Kunti
Virata Tanaya Tata
Virata Tanaya Tata
Gandhari Dhritarashtrascha
Gandhari Dhritarashtrascha
Yutsu Gautamo Yama
Yutsu Gautamo Yama
Vrikudarashcha Domyascha
Vrikudarashcha Domyascha
Striyomatsya Sutadaya
Striyomatsya Sutadaya
Nasiri Vimuyanto Viraham Sanga Dandana
Subhadra, sister of Krishna,
Sister of Krishna, Draupadi,
wife of the Pandavas,
wife of the Pandavas,
Kunti,
Kunti,
the mother of the Pandavas,
the mother of the Pandavas,
Virata Tanaya,
Virata Tanaya,
the daughter of Virata Uttara,
the daughter of Virata Uttara,
Tata, also Gandhari,
Gandhari,
the mother of Duryodhana,
the mother of Duryodhana,
Dhritarashtra,
Dhritarashtra,
the father of Duryodhana,
the father of Duryodhana,
Cha,
and
Yuyutsu, the son of Dhritarashtra by his Vaishya wife,
the son of Dhritarashtra by his Vaishya wife,
Gautama, Kripacharya,
Yamo,
twin brothers Nakula and Sahadev,
the twin brothers Nakula and Sahadeva, Vrikodara, Bhima,
Cha,
and
Domya, Cha, and Striya, also other ladies of the palace,
also other ladies of the palace,
Matsya Sutta Adaya,
Matsasuda Adaya,
the daughter of a fisherman, Satyavati Bhishma's stepmother,
Satyavati Bhishma's stepmother, could not tolerate
Vimuyanta,
Muyanta,
almost fainting.
Viraham,
separation, Sharanga Danvana,
Saranga Danvana.
Of Sri Krishna who bears a conch in his hand.
Shri Krishna who bears the conch in his hand.
Translation: At that time, Subhadra, Draupadi, Kunti, Uttara, Gandhari, Dhritarashtra, Yudsu, Kripacharya, Nakula, Sahadev, Bhimasena, Domya, and Satyavati all nearly fainted because it was impossible for them to bear separation from Lord Krishna. Please repeat. At that time, Subhadra,
And that time Subhadra,
Draupadi,
Draupadi,
Kunti,
Uttara,
Gandhari,
Gandhari,
Dhritarashtra,
Yudsu,
Kripacharya,
Kripacharya, Nakula,
Sahadev,
Sahadev,
Bhimasena, Domya,
Damya,
and Satyavati
and Satyavati
all nearly fainted
all nearly fainted
because it was impossible for them
because it was impossible for them
to bear separation from Lord Krishna.
to bear separation from Lord Krishna.
Prabhupada's purport. Lord Shri Krishna is so attractive for the living beings, especially for the devotees, that it is impossible for them to tolerate separation. The conditioned soul, under the spell of illusory energy, forgets the Lord, otherwise he cannot. The feeling of such separation cannot be described, but it can be simply imagined by devotees only. After the separation from Vrindavan and the innocent rural cowherd boys, girls, ladies, and others, they all felt shock throughout their lives, and the separation of Radharani, the most beloved cowherd girl, is beyond expression. Once they met at Kurukshetra during the solar eclipse, and the feeling which was expressed by them is heartrending. There is, of course, a difference in the qualities of the transcendental devotees of the Lord, but none of them who have ever contacted the Lord by direct communion or otherwise can leave him for a moment. That is the attitude of the pure devotee. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Sari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. At that time, Subhadra, Draupadi, Kunti, Uttara, Gandhari, Dhritarashtra, Yudsu, Kripacharya, Nakula, Sahadev, Bhimasena, Domya, and Satyavati all nearly fainted because it was impossible for them to bear separation from Lord Krishna. Interesting, we see that even the name Dhritarashtra is mentioned here, even though he apparently was on the other side of the Pandavas. He couldn't bear separation from Lord Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada makes a point here that when one contacts the Lord, to bear separation from him is it's impossible for the devotees to do that. They cannot be out of connection with him for a moment. So therefore they're always thinking of Krishna, and none more so than Srimati Radharani, who is considered the topmost devotee. She is the pleasure potency of the Lord. So when we talk about this feeling of separation of Radharani from Krishna, then this is not something we can understand or we will ever understand, because we will never experience Mahabharata. We may experience some separation, that's for sure, and Vipralamba, just like when we're in the association of the spiritual master or some other elevated soul, we feel very confident and protected. And then when they're gone, then we feel some separation. Sometimes we feel vulnerable, or we may feel vacant, just like Lord Chaitanya was saying in the Shikshastakam, I'm feeling all vacant in your absence. And the way to connect through that is remembering the instructions of the spiritual master, connecting through service and through behaving as a devotee. And this was going on in Vrindavan when Krishna apparently left Vrindavan. They say that actually Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, but apparently he did leave Vrindavan. So how is that? Can anyone say? How can he not have left Vrindavan if all the gopis and Radharani and cowherd boys, etc., Nanda and Yashoda, apparently he was not there? Anybody?
Wherever devotees remember Krishna in separation, then he's present.
So he was present. in the fact that they were also always discussing Krishna. They couldn't pass by a moment, even sometimes they're describing as being cruel for leaving them. But actually, because of discussing him, he hadn't left. He actually hadn't left Vrindavan. It was his Vasudev feature which had left Vrindavan. And the devotees, their feeling of love for Krishna is heightened by this feeling of separation. Just like in the material world, there's we say, absence makes the heart grow fonder. Sometimes that's the case. We may take each other for granted, but then if somebody gets sick or someone dies or someone goes away for some time, then we start to miss them. And Srila Prabhupada says that material technology, we can make some motor car or some aeroplane or some spaceship which can travel at very fast speeds, but we cannot travel at the speed of the mind. If you think of Vrindavan, immediately your mind goes there, just like that bhajan, Chalo Mana Shri Vrindavan Dham, and your mind, please hurry to Vrindavan Dham. So when you think of Vrindavan, your mind is there, you're purified. When you think of the deities, when you think of the spiritual master, he's there. So similarly, when the devotees think of Krishna, then Krishna is there. And especially more so when devotees gather together to discuss about Krishna. So in this way, the devotees never feel separation. Just like Srila Prabhupada, externally it appeared that he was on his own, a lonely old man in the Western world, very strange foreign place for him. But internally, actually, there was no separation because he was always connected to Krishna through his service, always connected to his spiritual master. So I'd just like to speak a little bit about Srimati Radharani. So Prabhupada, he quotes this verse, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Paritram, Paramam Bhavan. So when Param Brahma wants to enjoy that enjoying spirit there, it's in the Param Brahma. Otherwise we cannot have this enjoying spirit. So because we're part and parcel of Krishna, we want to enjoy, then that enjoying spirit is actually existing in the Supreme already. But when he wants to enjoy, it's not that he wants to go and get a pizza or go for a alcohol-free beer or other thing in the material world. Like material energy, people are enjoying it in so many degrading ways, or they want to enjoy a relationship with someone and it just becomes in some kind of gross, ignorant activity. This Prabhupada explains that human life is meant for austerity. It's not meant for eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. If we do nothing other than that, then we're simply polished animals. Prabhupada explains it's like the animals are doing these activities, and the humans are doing these activities, but they have to make a very polished version of it. They have to have like shirt and tie and nice $1,000 pair of shoes and dresses and nice apartment, and they're making so much mechanization and elaborate things simply just to eat, sleep, mate, and defend. If there's nothing else involved in their life, then they're more than animals. So Prabhupada says that this enjoying spirit is not the same enjoying spirit as a conditioned soul. When the Supreme Lord wants to enjoy, that is on the transcendental level. He's not a conditioned soul. So when the Lord wants to enjoy, then this is it's called Brahman Sukhanu Bhutya. People are trying to feel what is Brahma Sukha, pleasure of Brahmanubhav. That's not material pleasure. So he's comparing that many yogis and devotees give up their family life, the kingdom, throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is why it's important that we read the Srimad Bhagavatam. First of all, read the Bhagavad Gita. We understand we're not the body, we're spirit, soul. And then begin to practice that, learn to tolerate the pushings and pullings of the senses, happiness and distress, things like that. And gradually we come to the transcendental platform. So this is Krishna and Prabhupada is saying here that many yogis and devotees, they are giving up kingdoms, they're giving up family, they're giving up all possessions, giving up all sense of proprietorship. and they're giving up this Ishvara Bhav, the sense that they are the controller of something. So we're giving these things up just to get a little glimpse of this Brahma, Bhuta Prasanatma, this pleasure from Brahman. And Krishna is actually the Param Brahma. So Prabhupada says, do you think this Brahman pleasure is ordinary material pleasure? To achieve a portion of Brahman, they're kicking off all this material pleasure. So it gives some examples. Like Bharat Maharaj, he was emperor. At one time the planet was called Bharatavarsh. He was emperor of the whole world. And of course there's many kingdoms, empires which have come and gone, and even this one we barely know anything about. We know some recent ones like the British Empire, the Roman Empire, Greek Empire, things like that, Ottoman Empire. But this empire of Bharat Maharaj stretched all over the whole globe. So it was a fallacy to think that many of these countries, nobody had discovered them. They maybe were known to an ignorant few, but was always a connection between these continents. Actually, some time ago, I had the pleasure of spending some time with Sadhguru Prabhu, who was one of the chief devotees of the Bhaktivedanta Institute. And he was lecturing in Cambridge University at the time. And he brought back one very old book. It was called Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings. This was a copy of a book which was used around 1500 years ago. And even at that, the maps were considered to be much more ancient. And they had drawings of various coastlines like America and things like that, which were more accurate to today's description than the maps which Christopher Columbus had charted. So these ancient sea kings, these seafaring kings, they were actually traveling from continent to continent already. And so this is like false, was it saying nowadays, fake news? Fake news that America was discovered in 1600 and something. It was already being occupied, it was already going on. So many different connections were there. So it's not that. And we can find actually evidence of yet another aspect of that was evidence of Vedic culture in different continents. So in the South American culture, there was some ancient depiction carved on stone of the churning of the ocean of milk, which was there before the Spanish and the British, etc., went to the Americas. Same in Russia, that's also there. Cambodia also. So there's much evidence there. So Bharat Maharaj, he had the control of the whole planet. Beautiful wife, young children, and says here, by the age of 24 years old, he gave up everything. And he gave another example, Buddha, he was also a prince. He was not an ordinary person, and he had all enjoyment available to him. Lord Buddha had everything available to him, kingdom, so much sense gratification was offered to him, simply just as you can't imagine the type of opulence and sense gratification which was available to these people day and night. The sense gratification which is available to us now is minuscule in comparison to that, but somehow or other we're still attached to it. But he gave it up. He gave up that. Lord Buddha gave it up. Bharat Maharaj gave it up simply for some higher pleasure. And Prabhupada says that tapasya means voluntarily accepting something severe for realizing supreme pleasure. So this is the principle paramdrisva nivartate, that we're giving up something lesser for something higher. And so if for tasting a little Brahman pleasure, all materialistic pleasures are to be given up, do you think that Supreme Brahman, Lord Krishna, is enjoying this material Lakshmi, Sahasra, Satasandra, Sevimanam, hundreds and thousands of gopis or goddesses of fortune are engaging in service? Do you think these Lakshmis are material women? How Krishna can take pleasure in the material world? No, this is a mistake. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibha Tabi Tabirya Eva Nijabhupataya Kalami. In the Brahma Samhita, you'll find that he expands his Ananda Chinmaya Rasa, the mellow of transcendental pleasure potency. And these gopis are expansion of his pleasure potency. Radharani is the center. So Radharani is not an ordinary woman, like we have her wife, sister, or mother. She is pleasure potency, and the birth of Radharani was not from the womb of any human being. What's the father's name of Srimati Radharani?
Shambhanu.
Shabana. Did everybody know that? You've heard it. A name for Radharani is
Vishabhanu.
Vishabhanu Nandini, that can be one, yeah, Vishabhani. So, and her mother's name is? Kirtana. So actually, while he was ploughing the field, he actually discovered Radharani in the field. She wasn't born, just like Krishna's birth, Janma made of him is divine. Radharani's birth is also so. She only appears simply to be with her beloved Krishna and perform pastimes. So Prabhupada makes another nice point here. So the atheistic class of men protest this name Radharani. It's not in the Bhagavatam, but they do not know how to see it. There is Anya Radyate. Anya Radyate. There are many gopis, but there is mentioned that this particular gopi is served more pleasingly. Krishna accepts this gopi service more gladly. Aradyate, this Aradate, the word Aradyate means worshipping. From this Aradyate, Radha has come. But Radha's name are there in Puranas, so this is the origin. So does anybody know the story why Radha is not mentioned directly in the Bhagavatam? Brenda?
If Radhastami worship and then do go into too much ecstasy, you won't be able to continue reading the Bhagavatam. That's reciting.
Exactly, because I didn't hear that, and then Brenda was saying that Sukadeva Goswami was reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam for Maharaj Parikshit, and if he mentioned Radharani's name, then he becomes so ecstatic by remembering her, by mentioning her name, that he wouldn't be able to continue with the recitation of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So therefore, he referred to her in a less direct way. Because his purpose for speaking the Bhagavatam was for Sukadeva, for Maharaj Parikshit. So when the Parambrahma, Krishna wants to enjoy that enjoying spirit is not material, and he also explains that when Radha and Krishna are never separated, just as fire, you cannot separate smoke, you cannot separate heat and light from fire. If you take one away, then it's not fire any longer. If you take away the heat, it's not fire. If you take away the light, it's not fire. So similarly, Radha and Krishna are always combined, and he explains that for the pastimes purposes, then sometimes they appear to separate. So therefore is Radha and Krishna. Although they are inseparable, but in this way they enjoy transcendental pastimes, and all the pastimes of Loka Vrindavan are centered around these loving pastimes of Radha and Krishna. These are the highest pastimes. And Lord Chaitanya, he also again, Prabhupada says, joined the two into one. Chaitanyakyam Prakatam Aruna. Also this, we can see this picture here that Lord Chaitanya revealed himself to Ramananda Roy, who is none other than Arjuna, that Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahayanya, that he's none different from Radha and Krishna. So for those who don't know Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then he's actually Krishna in the mood of Radharani. He's actually Radha and Krishna combined. And he's experiencing, he wanted to experience, one time the devotees of Krishna went to Krishna and said, you have everything, but there's one thing we have which you don't have. And so he was very interested to hear what that was, and they said that we have love for you, we have that, which is greater than anything that you have. So he thought, well, I want to experience that. So therefore, he descended as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, experiencing Mahabhav, or the greatest aspect of loving devotional service. And we see in the later chapters of Chaitanya Charitamrita how he exhibits this very high level of separation. So this is not something to be imitated. If we imitate that, then simply we become cheap. We become sahaja. Just like someone may have like a very expensive handbag, it may cost thousands of pounds, then someone gets a cheap knockoff, and people can spot it a mile off if they know what they're looking for. But other people who are cheap or foolish, they won't notice it. So there are many people who are cheaply trying to make out that they're advanced, but people who are actually advanced can see that, can see whether they are or not. So one shouldn't prematurely try to present themselves as being on the liberated platform, what is because of being on a high level of experiencing Krishna Prema. But this is going on, and by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we're able to understand. We may not understand what is Krishna Prema, what is the feelings of bhava, we may not be on that level, but we know, we can see the symptoms of one who is not on that. So Prabhupada says that this Radha Krishna philosophy is a very great philosophy. It's to be understood in the liberated stage. So if people don't read the Srimad Bhagavatam, first of all Bhagavad Gita and then Srimad Bhagavatam, and gradually come to the 10th canto, if they just jump to the 10th canto, as Prabhupada calls it, the jumping, then they don't understand this philosophy because they haven't understood Krishna's superior position as a Param Brahma, as a supreme being. They don't understand Radharani's position as being the supreme goddess. But they project some mundane version onto it. So Prabhupada says that in order to become, first of all, we have to become free from the conditioned stage, and we worship actually Radha Krishna in the mood of Lakshmi Narayan. Prabhupada wanted that, therefore opulent temple worship. Sometimes in Vrindavan we may see things very simply, that's a different mood. But because we are sadhakas, we're following sadhana bhakti for our purification, then it's important for us to follow strictly the rules and regulations so that we become purified, and then we don't convey our mundane interpretation onto the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So it's important actually that we engage in preaching and giving Krishna consciousness to other people, because this is Lord Nityananda's mood, that simply he's conveying this mood by his own personal example, that we should give Krishna consciousness to everybody, give the holy name. He was personally doing this. Radha Krishna Piety Nai in the Nittai Parakamala song, then it says that if one wants to understand Radha and Krishna, we cannot do it unless we have a relationship with Nittai. So to understand Radha and Krishna, then we serve Lord Nityananda, his mission, and his mission is to give the holy names, the Hare Krishna mantra, and to give the holy names of Lord Chaitanya to everybody. And this way they become benefited, and in this way we become qualified, gradually become qualified. So by our own endeavour, we do our best to do some sadhana, but actually we're really depending on the mercy of Guru and Krishna. And specifically, it mentions, Srila Prabhupada mentions that one cannot spread Krishna consciousness unless one has the mercy of Lord Nityananda or Srimati Radharani. Because both of these transcendental personalities, they're introducing us into the service of Krishna. When Radharani becomes pleased, she'll say, "Oh my dear Krishna, see this jiva, they're trying to serve you so nicely." So we have to please her, and by doing that, in order to do this, we have to please the Guru. Not that we can just jump through the Guru Parampara and go to Radharani, or we just go to Lord Nityananda. So yes, we can pray to Radharani, we can pray to Lord Nityananda, but it's by the mercy of Guru that we have access to this, and they're also the representative of Srimati Radharani, of Lord Nityananda, that they're trying to train us so that they can say, "My dear Lord, please accept this devotee. They're trying so hard to please you." So this is the way to actually enter into the pastimes of Radha Krishna. Not that we just read about it all day long and we don't do anything practical. This is leading to taking things cheaply and not understanding, and we can prematurely think ourselves into some elevated position. So Srila Prabhupada says that pure devotional service is a very practical thing. We actually have to, if we have love for Krishna, we have to demonstrate that, and demonstrate it means by doing something. Not that we just sit back and say, "Oh, I love Krishna, I love his story, it's great." That's fine. We might love the stories, we might feel attracted to Krishna, and we should do because he's all attractive. And therefore, even the topmost devotee, Srimati Radharani, she's attracted to him. But Krishna, he's attracted to even her. Madan Mohan is Krishna who attracts the mind, but she's Madan Mohan Mohini. She attracts even the mind of Krishna. So at this point, we'd just like to putting together a nice recording and video as a fundraiser for Kuna Bhavan on this special day of Radhastami. So Prabhupada says, if we practice this Krishna consciousness very strictly, then we become expert, and then it will come naturally. So as long as we have some material desire. So here he discusses about this bhajan we just sung, Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate. So this is by Rupa Goswami. So he's saying to understand that she is so dear to Krishna. Everyone is trying to love Krishna, but Krishna is trying to love somebody. Now how great she is, just try to understand. Everyone, the whole world, the whole universe, all living entities, they're trying to love Krishna. Now even if we're ignorant of Krishna, they're trying to love Krishna through his external energy, trying to enjoy in this way. Lord Chaitanya describes Prema, Pramartha Mahan, and Rupa Goswami describes that you're distributing Krishna Prema, so Krishna Prema is so valuable, but Krishna is after Radharani. Just see how Radharani is great. Just try to understand the greatness of Radharani. Therefore, she is so great, and we have to offer her respect. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate. So for anyone who thinks that Krishna consciousness is sexist, or that there's not equal opportunities, then understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is actually feeling subservient to Srimati Radharani, the topmost goddess. So in the Vaishnava circles, we accept that Radharani is the greatest. Even Srila Prabhupada's father used to pray that please let my son become a great devotee of Radharani. And if you go to Vrindavan, Krishna's home, everybody is chanting Radhe Radhe, that's how we greet each other. In Mayapur they may say Gauranga or Haribol, in Jagannathpuri they say Jai Jagannath, and in the UK they may so many things, like Glasgow they say how's it going, and London might say one thing, or in Yorkshire they say Aop, that means whatever it means. But in Vrindavan they say Radhe Radhe because she is the topmost devotee of Krishna and she's the most worshipable. So this was also Parvati, the consort of Lord Shiva, asked what is the most worshipable thing, and he said that Vishnu is the most worshipable, but higher than that is Arada, Tadiya, that which is related to Vishnu. So the highest which is related to Krishna is Radharani. And Gokula Tarani Mandala Mahiti, Tarani means young girl. She is the most beautiful, she's enchanting to the young girls. Also, she's so beautiful. Everyone's putting Radharani forward and serving like that because she's the best devotee. Damodar, Damodar, Krishna becomes attracted by her beauty, having a Skuta Vrinda Vikaneshi, and she is the only lovable object of Krishna, and she is the Queen of Vrindavan. You'll find in Vrindavan, you go to Vrindavan, everyone is worshipping Radharani. Rani means queen. They're always speaking Jaya Radhe. She appeared to Vrishabhanu Dadi Navashashi Leki. She appeared as the daughter of King Vrishabhanu and her companion Lalita Shaki and Vishaka Shaki and the devotees. So on behalf of the pure devotees of Krishna, Rupa Goswami is praying, Karunam Kuru Mai Karuna Bharati. Oh, my worshipable Radharani, you're full of mercy. So I'm begging of your mercy because you are so merciful. Very easily you bestow your mercy, so I'm begging your mercy. So especially on days like today, we can pray to Radharani for her mercy that we can become a great devotee also, or that we can become the servant of the servant. That is what means great devotee. Sanaka Sanatan Varnita Charity. So someone may say, oh, you're so great learned scholar, and you're a great saintly person, and you're begging from an ordinary girl. How is that? Therefore, Rupa Goswami says, well, this is not an ordinary girl. This girl's description is possible to be made only by great saintly persons like Sanaka and Sanatan. She is not ordinary. So the lesson is that we should not treat Radharani as an ordinary girl or Krishna as ordinary man. They are the supreme absolute truth, but in the absolute truth, there is the pleasure potency, and that is exhibited in the dealings of Radha and Krishna. Radha's expansion, all the gopis, and Krishna is the Supreme Lord. So therefore, a very important day. Even Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, such a great devotee, Prabhupada told us that he wouldn't even mention Radharani's name. He felt unqualified to do that. So we should be very careful not to take Radharani cheaply. And as we were saying, just as Krishna's appearance and activities are not normal, then Radharani's also. Her appearance is simply to display the eternal pastimes, to attract the living entities and to serve the Lord's desire to have transcendental pastimes engaging all the living entities. So when the Lord comes to the material world, he displays his pastimes to attract the living entities, and all his devotees travel with him. This is one of Krishna's qualities, one of his 64 qualities, is that he is always surrounded by loving devotees. So when Krishna decides to come to the material world, then everyone comes with him. And it's not that the spiritual world is then absent. It's not like somebody goes to Goloka Vrindavan and says, everybody's gone, come back in a few thousand years. Simultaneously, they can, because the spiritual world and the spiritual world is in the material world in the form of Sri Vrindavan Dham. It's not that Vrindavan Dham becomes spiritualized by Krishna's appearing. It's actually eternally always there. Sometimes it appears manifest according to or a state of purification. And sometimes people just see it as being a dusty little village or whatever they may see it as. So we'd just like to finish there. We'll be, Jad is going to be leading the chanting of the 108 names of Srimati Radharani, and if he's up to it, he'll chant the Radha Krishna Tastika, or whatever you call it. Is that how you pronounce it? Okay, and so we fast until lunchtime, and this evening there'll be a program at the temple from 5 till 7. So everyone please make sure you're in time for the rest of the program. Iskanguru ki, Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Shri Radhastami ki, Srimati Radharani ki, Thakur Do you want this fixed now?
Which one is this? What I'll do is I'll just recite this first verse, because it's like an introduction or I'm singing.
Okay.
Everybody see this? If you can't, then just move forward.
So we're going to sing the 108 names of Srimati Radharani, which is composed by Vishwanath Chandra.
Raghunath Das Goswami.
Right. Okay. And we'll just read through the first 2 verses, which is an introduction, and then when we're actually singing the names, I'll sing the verses which contain the names, and then as a refrain at the end of each verse, actually at the end of every 2 verses, we'll sing Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Shri Shyama Priya. We start saying Jai Shri Radhe,
Jai Shri Radhe,
Jai Shri Shyama Priya.
Jai Shri Rama Priya.
Avikshat Neshwarim Kachit Vrindavana Maheshwarim Tatpadam Roja Maitrika Kati Dasyati Katara Patita Tatsarastire Rudatyarta Ravakalam Tatri Vaktre Shanal Bhatyai Namanyetani Samjago. Some, in the translation.
Oh, sorry.
Some maidservant, unable to find her mistress, has fallen on the bank of Radhakunda, crying in great anxiety. Being very eager to take exclusive shelter of her lotus feet, glorifying her by singing the following names of her. instruments, and we'll sing 2 verses together, and then the refrain after 2 verses. And okay, Radha, Radha, it's okay. Radha, 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 Gandharva, Krishna, Yuva Rajakamita, Gandharatika Chandra, Kanti Madhava Sangini, Amodara Dvaita Sakhi, Kartiko Kirtiteshwari, Mundadayita Vrinda, Devamani Manjari, Sri Radha, Sri Syama Priya, Sri Radha, Sri Syama Priya, Askaro Pasikavasha, Anadi Vrishabhanacha, Anangamanjari Jesha, Sri Dhamma Jotama, Kirtida Kanyakamati, Sneha Piyusha Pujika, Vishaka Salya Preshta, Vishaka Hivitadika, Sri Radha, Sri Syama Priya, Sri Radha, Sri Syama Priya, Pranavitya Lalita, Vrindavana Vihari, Lalita Pranavashayaka, Raksha Vrindavaneshwari, Gajendravini Krishna, Prayasvina Niketanam, Rajagopa Gopali, Jiva Matraika Jivanam, Sri Radha, Sri Syama Priya, Sri Radha, Sri Syama Priya, Sneha Vira Rajendra, Vatsala Chuta Purvaja, Govinda Pranayadara, Surabhi Deva Nutsuka, Tritanadishwara Kshema, Gamanonati Manasa, Swadeha Tata Drishti, Danishta Jaya Dashana, Sri Radha, Sri Syama Priya, Sri Radha, Sri Syama Priya, Gopindravani Shipaka, Shalavedi Prakashika, Ayurvada Karadana, Rohini Krata Mastaka, Suvalanyasta Sarubhya, Suvala Printitoshita, Mukaratrik Sudanatri, Jatila Drishti Vishita, Sri Radha, Sri Syama Priya, Sri Radha, Sri Syama Priya, Madhumangala Janita Smita Chandrika, Purnamasi Kahikela, Radhabanja Sharika, Swagana Dvaita Jivantu, Zviya Harhara Vadini, Swagano Petra Padamcha, Swashalambana Harshini, Sri Radha, Sri Syama Priya, Sri Radha, Sri Syama Priya, Smiya Vrindavanodhyana, Palaki Rita Vrindaka, Kyata Vrindavati Sava, Latataru Mrigadvija,
Isha Jana Sangrisha, Navakashmira Dehava, Java Pushpa Prabhahari, Vajachina Rambara Sri Radha, Sri Shyama Priya, Sri Radha, Sri Shyama Priya. Sharanam Chatala Jyoti, Hari Krita Bhutala, Hari Chitta Chamankari, Charunupurani Swana, Krishna Shanti Harashoni, Pitavadita Gantika, Krishna Sarvasvati Nodyat, Puja Shanchanmani Malika Sri Radha, Sri Shyama Priya, Sri Radha, Sri Shyama Priya, Nana Ratnora Sachanka, Chudacharu Pujadvaya, Shamantakamani Rajan, Mani Bandati Bandura, Suvanadapana Jyoti, Ulanhi Mukhamandana, Hakadati Mabijaba, Danta Krishna Gavi, Shubha Sri Radha, Sri Shyama Priya, Sri Radha, Sri Shyama Priya. Havjaraga Dishrishtabja, Kalikara Bhushana, Sobhagya Prajalam Kapta, Vetranindita Kanjana, Surita Motika Mukta, Nasika Tila Pushpita, Sucharunama Kasturi, Tila Kanchita Balaka Shri Radha, Sri Shyama Priya, Sri Radha, Sri Shyama Priya, Divya Devi Vinibhuta, Keki Vinchalara Suti, Netranta Sarvindamshi, Krishna Chandra Vidyari, Spura Kashora Tarunya, Sandi Madhura Vigraha, Madhavola Sakumata, Vikor Madhura Swara Sri Radha, Sri Shyama Priya, Sri Radha, Sri Shyama Priya, Pranayata Shata Krishna, Madhavoti Tilambata, Krishna Banga Tarangodyat, Smita Piyusha Buddha, Ujji Bhutta Tagalyaja, Vajati Tikta Vigraha, Karana Vidravateha, Bhutiman Modrigata Sri Radha, Sri Shyama Priya, Sri Radha, Sri Shyama Priya, Shagakunamati Bhava, Diyamana Gadoshaya, Satyati Subhaga Vrinda, Vanyamano Risomara, Dinavadana Sanita, Rasarasya Visharada, Narada Brahmagopita, Jagadananda Sadhya Shri Radha, Sri Shyama Priya, Sri Radha, Sri Shyama Priya, Govardhana Guhadeha, Krishni Punyamandana, Chandamashunamani Vada, Bhagini Vabhavi Brahma, Divya Punyavatana, Sakyadama Vibhushita, Govajana Jarahladi, Shringarasa Pandita, Sri Radha, Sri Shyama Priya, Sri Radha, Sri Shyama Priya, Kirindrajara Vakshashri, Shankachujar Jivana, Gulendra Sita Prema, Kama Bhuvendra Patana, Vrishabhinam Sanarmukti, Swanavita Sarovara, Ijakunda Jalakrita, Jita Sankashanam Nudra Shri Radha, Sri Shyama Priya, Sri Radha, Sri Shyama Priya, Puramadanametrya, Viharamrita Deepika, Kirindrajara Bharindra, Vyati Radhura Siddhika, Swajanusara Bholmati, Krishna Mohana Madhava, Domolochana Krita, Yakuni Krita Keshava Shri Radha, Sri Shyama Priya, Shri Radha, Shri Shyama Priya, Ichakunda Tati Kunja, Niftakevi Kalojama, Tiryamani Kalolasi, Shayakavita Vigraha, Krishna Vama Ujanyasa, Charajakshina Gandaka, Savyabahura Tabada, Krishna Dakshina Sadhuja Shri Radha, Shri Shyama Priya, Shri Radha, Shri Shyama Priya, Krishna Dakshina Chavya, Shrishta Vamoram, Virindrajara Drikaksho, Mani Sistana Bhavata, Govindadara Pirusha, Vasitahara Palava, Surasanjaya Charukti, Shri Kritamarava, Shri Radha, Shri Shyama Priya, Shri Shyama Priya, Govinda Vira Tambula, Raga Rajya Polika, Krishna Sambhoga Safali, Krishna Mata Sambhava, Govinda Todama, Raji Prashvena Sammukha, Vishakari Jita Krita, Svanti Nidrala Vigraha, Shri Radha, Shri Shyama Priya, Shri Radha, Shri Shyama Priya, Govinda Charanaya Kayamana Sajivana, Swaprana Buddha Nirmancha, Haripada Rajakana, Anumatra Chutadarsa, Shyamyamana Malochana, Nityarutana Govinda, Bhakti Surana Shinadashana, Shri Radha, Shri Shyama Priya, Shri Radha, Shri Shyama Priya, Shiga Hari Madhya, Sundarya Dekabhumi, Sapanyaya Manurari, Matravagya Takshini, Adamuri Balakrita, Jitamamshi Vikashini, Namukti Chandikotpura, Krishna Gamardini Vardini Shri Radha, Shri Shyama Priya, Sri Radha, Sri Syama, Priya, Kaja Chudendriya, Vishwanath Shalika, Krishna Savetriyo Nadi, Radhityakshara Brahma Sri Radha, Sri Syama, Priya, Sri Radha, Sri Syama, Priya, Sri Radha, Sri Syama, Priya, Sri Radha. Idam Sri Radhikaranam Astutada Shato Jvalam Sri Radha Lamakam Nama Stotram Sharo Sayanam Yotita Paramaputya Dina Kitaramanasa Sanatam Akire Naiva Sanatam Ikshate Dhruvam. Whoever recites these 108 names of Sri Radha that consists of all beautiful nectarian Radha now with great love, humility, and eagerness, will certainly and swiftly behold her master. Iti Srimad Bhagavata Das Goswami Virachita Staravayam Sri Radhika Stotara Shatanama Stotram Sampurna. Thus ends Srimad Bhagavata Das Goswami Sri Radhika's 108 names prayer. Tissues, please. Please, we give the tissues.
Thanks for that blessing, guys. This was the last one, so just
This might be the last line.
explain.
Sorry?
Do you want to explain?
So this song, it's actually, this song is known as Hari Bhashtam Sutra, Sri Vrindavan Dham. It's the actual, just as we sing the Radhastami prayers in the morning to the spiritual masters. So many of the residents of Vrindavan, the Bhajans, especially in Valshana, including the little girls just like 4 or 5 years old, and they sing this song every morning. Very early in the morning. I remember when I was doing once I did Vrindavan Parikram, I think it was second time I went to Vrindavan in 1999, and then I got up at about 5 o'clock in the morning and started. And already many of the young ladies of Vrindavan were already on Parikram at that time, singing these songs. So we're going to sing, these are names of Srimati Radharani, and the last line is like asking for Srimati Radharani to cast her glance upon us. It's actually described as her sidelong glance. Can you just scroll up a little bit so you can see the translation of that? Scroll up. No, up. Oh, sorry, down. Sorry, down. Okay, so yeah, the last line is, O companion of righteous prince, when will you cast your merciful sidelong glance upon me? So if we just sing that last line together, sorry, scroll up. Yes, we can sing this. Kada karishyahi. So we can sing this. Kada karishyasihamam.
Kada karishyasihamam.
Kripa
Kripa
Kataksha
Kataksha
Arjuna
Arjuna
kada karisyasi amam,
kada karishyasi ramam,
kripa katakshabhajanam,
kripa katakshabhajanam,
kada karisyasi amam,
kada karishyasi ramam,
kripa katakshabhajanam.
kripa katakshabhajanam.
So I'll just sing each verse once, and then on the last line I'll sing it once, and then. Oh no, you can just join in on the last line. So yeah, we'll just sing each verse once through, but on the last line you can all join in. You start playing some chords from there. Loud, louder. That's it. Indra Vrindavandite Viloka Shokahari Prasanna Bhakta Pankaj Dikunja Bhumilasini Prajanya Bhavinandini That's the wrong tune. That's the tune for the previous one. How does this go?
It's the same one, is it?
Mananjavindaramnite Triloka Shokahari Prasanna Bhakta Pankajeni Kunja Bhumilasini Prajanjavananandini Prajanya Sunasamrini Kadakarishyasi Amam Kripakataksha Bhajana. That's how it goes. Sorry? Should we sing the last one twice? Yeah?
No, I'm just saying that's the same melody as you said.
Maybe it was the same. I don't think it is the same.
No, it's good.
The same, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's not quite the same.
It fits well.
Kadakarisyasi amam kritakataksha bhajanam. Kadakarisyasi amam kritakataksha bhajanam.
Well, it fits well, let's do it.
Yeah, it does fit, but it's
Yeah,
anyway.
we'll do it.
It's not. It's
fine.
okay. We'll just do it like that then. Shokavrikshalalari Vitamamantapastite Prabhalavalapala Prabharunangriko Male Karabhaya Surakare Prabhuta Sampadalaya Kadakarisyasi Amam Kripakatakshabhashanam. Anangaranga Mangala Prasanga Bangura Bhuva Sabribrabam Sarasambrabam Trigantavana Patana Nirantara Pratichanandanandani Kadakarisyasi Amam Kripakatakshabhajanam Taditsuvana Champaka Pradita Gora Vikmahe Mukha Prabha Parasta Goti Sharadindu Mandale Vichitra Chitta Sankara Shakora Shavalochani Kadakarisyasi Amam Kripakatakshabhajana Mandomadati Yogame Pramoda Mandamandite Priyanuraga Ranjite Kalavilasa Pandite Ananya Danya Kunjarajya Kama Keli Kovide Kadakarisyasi Amam Kripakatakshabhajanam Shechahana Bhavadira Hira Hara Bhushite Prabhuta Prata Kumbha Kumbha Kumbhi Kumbha Sustani Prashashtamanda Hasya Chuna Puna Saukya Sagare Kadakarisyasi Amam Kripakatakshabhajanam Rinala Vala Valari Taranga Ranga Dolate Nataralasya Lola Lila Lokshama Valokane Valanda Bambilan Manokya Moksha Moranashite Kadakarisyasi Amam Kripakatakshabhajanam Svanamani Kanchitati Rekha Kambu Kantage Trisutra Bangali Gunati Ratnati Tridipiti Salola Nila Kunta Sundra Gosha Gopite,
Kadakarishi Rama Kripa
Vitamba Pindalam, Swastale Kalakume, Shasparata Kinti, Talapamate, Karinda Shundatika, Paro, Sobro Guru, Kadakarishi Rama Kripa, Aleka Mantrana, Mantranu Paravasavat, Samaja Raja Hansavam Shripanati Gorade, Vinoda Hemavalade, Chidamu Chara Chakrame,
Kadakarishi Rama Kripa
Ananta Koti Vishnu, Anabra Padma Jati, Imadi Japi Lo Majabi Vikta, Arapradeya Parasiddhi Vidhi, Satpadam Udevate,
Kadakarishi Rama Kripa Kadakshavajanam
Makeshwari, Priyeshwari, Sureshwari, Sureshwari, Tudeva Bharatishwari, Pramana Shamshameshwari, Rameshwari, Shameshwari, Pramoda Kandaneshwari, Rajeshwari, Rajatike, Shri Radhike, Namaste. Itimam Agvatam Stavam Nishanyavana Nandini Karotu Shantatam Janam Kripati Kapshavajanam Avetadaiva Sanchita Rupaka Manashanam Avetadaiva Jendra Shunu Mandala Abhiveshanam. Upon hearing this most astonishing prayer of mine being recited by a devotee, may Sri Vrishabhanu Nandini constantly make him the object of her most merciful sidelong glance. At that time, all his karmic reactions, whether mature, fructifying, or lying in seed, will be completely destroyed, and then he will gain entrance into the assembly of Nandanandana's eternal loving associates. You get some more? Sorry?
Thank you.
Oh, finished. I think it's written by, it's spoken by Lord Shiva, isn't it?
All right, there's a couple more verses.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rakayam cha shitam samyam dasham yam cha vishuddhati ekadashyam triyodashyam yapatet sadaka shuddhi yam yam kamyate karmam tam tamapnoti sadaka radhakripa kutakshena bhakti shyatpena rakshana. If a sadhaka with purified intelligence recites this stava with a fixed mind on the lunar days, known as the full moon day, the bright Ashtami, the Dashmi, the Ekadashi, and the Trayodashi, and each and every one of his desires will be fulfilled one by one. And by the merciful sidelong glance of Sri Radha, he will obtain devotional service that has the special symptom of being imbued with pure ecstatic love of God. Prema. Uru Dagne, Navi Dagne, Rid Dagne, Kanta Dagne, Radhakam Tishares Pitaya Patet Sarakashatam, Tasya Savata Sirishyad Vyak Samacham Tatalavet, Aishwaryam Shalabet Sakshad Drisha Pashyati Radhikam. The sadhaka who recites this stava 100 times while standing in the waters of Sri Radhakunda to his thighs, navel, chest, or neck, will attain complete perfection in the five goals of human existence, namely Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha and Prema. He will also attain the power by which everything he says will come true. He will become very powerful and opulent due to attaining transcendental majesty. And he gets to meet Sri Radhika face to face, seeing her even with his present eyes. Tena sattakshanadeva tushdate mahavaram yena pashyati netravyam tatvyam shyam sundaram. By such judgment, this prayer in Radhakunda, Sri Radhika becomes so pleased that she instantly bestows a great benediction on the devotee, which is that she sees, that he sees her beloved Shyama Sundar with his very own eyes. Vichalita pravesham chadadata shiva jadipa ata paratiram prajam vaishravasya chavidyate. Then that Lord of Vrindavan grants the devotee entrance into his eternal pastimes. Genuine Vaishnavas anchor for nothing beyond this. Shri iti Srimad Udvamaye Shri Radhakaya Kapataksha Strocham Sampurnam. Thus ends the Shri Radhakaya Kapataksha Strocham, found in the Udvamaya Tantra.
and it's spoken by Lord Shiva to Parvati. Shri Srimati Radharani ki, Shri Radhastami Mahamahotsava ki, Shri Radhashama Sundari ki, Shri Vrindavan ki, Shri Prabhupada ki. It's right there in front of you.
Very good. Thank you.
Chant, chant, Radha, Krishna, everyone chant. When Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda came dancing through Nadia, they gave these teachings, chant, chant, Radha, Krishna, everyone chant. You're caught up in a whirlpool of senseless action and are sinking lower and lower. Chant, chant, Radha, Krishna, everyone chant. If you just understand that the spirit soul is the eternal servant of Krishna, you will never have any more sorrows. Chant Hare Krishna and your eyes will fill with tears and your body will feel transcendental shivering. Chant, chant, Radha Krishna, everyone chant. Simply chant Radha Krishna and join with us. Those are the only alms we beg. Chant, chant, Radha Krishna, everyone chant. All dangers will be gone when that name is chanted, says Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Chant, chant, Radha Krishna, everyone chant. Srila Prabhupada gives a purport for this song, and in the purport he's explaining that we're looking for pleasure in this material world, but the pleasure is just as compared to relief from material distress. He says if someone puts your head under the water and then momentarily they bring it up and you're gasping for air, then do we consider that pleasure? We actually consider it relief, that's all. So in this verse he's giving the purport that the higher pleasure would be invited to enjoy the eternal pastimes of the Lord by just chanting the holy names. And in this way we experience real pleasure and not just temporary relief from material suffering. Radha Krishna Bol Bol Bolo Re Sabai. 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 Shika Diya Shadna Diya Puchinichi Gorika. Shika Diya Shadna Diya Puchinichi Gorika. Maya Boshi Jacho Bechi Kanchu Habu Jibogai. Maya Boshi Jacho Bechi Kanchu Habu Jibogai. Radha Krishna Bol Bol Bolo Re Sabai. 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 Krishna Das Vishwas Korle Toar Dukonai. Krishna Das Vishwas Korle Toar Dukonai. Krishna Gopi Jabi Kavi Jorbian. Krishna Gopi Jabi Tula Kavi Jorbian Gibolika. Krishna Gopi Jabi Tula Kavi Jorbian Gibolika. Radha Krishna Bol Bol Bolo Re Sabai. 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 Radha Krishna Boli Sankirtalo Vinod Bodhi Jakon Gunagai
Sakal Vinod Bhakti Vinod Bodhi Jakon Gunagai
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Shri Kariya Shanariya Kirchi Menchi Gordikaya
Shri Kariya Sannadiya Virchi Kirchi Gordikaya
Maya Goshi Chanchu Veshi Kanchu Habuji Bobaya
Maya Goshi Chanchu Veshi Kanchu Habuji Bobaya
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Shri Krishna Das Vishwas Korvito Ardukona
Shri Krishna Das Se Vishwas Korvito Ardukona
Obija Vidula Kavi Torbi Anki Bolita
Ove Jave Kula Kave Jovi Anki Kolika
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Boli Sange Chalo He Mantra Vikacha
Krishna Gora Sange Java Deva Mantra Vikacha
Sakha Vibo Bhakti Vino Jole Jagonatha
Jai Sakal Vipur Bhakti Deva Gora Jagannath
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Shri Kariya Shanariya Kirchi Menchi Gordika
Shri Kariya Sannadiya Virchi Kirchi Gordika
Maya Goshi Chanchu Veshi Kanchu Habuji Bobaya
Maya Goshi Kanchu Veshi Kanchu Habuji Bobaya
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Shri Krishna Das Vishwas Korvito Ardukona
Shri Krishna Das Se Vishwas Korvito Ardukona
Obija Vidula Kavi Torbi Anki Bolita
Ove Jave Kula Kave Jovi Anki Kolika
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Boli Sange Chalo He Mantra Vikacha
Krishna Gora Sange Jave Mantra Vikacha
Sakha Vibo Bhakti Vinod Bole Jagonatha
Jai Sakal Vipur Bhakti Vinod Bole Jagannath
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Radha Krishna Lore Sudhai
Shri Radha Krishna Ki
Jai.
Radhe Radhe Shyamala.
Part of it missing, isn't there? The main verses.
Sorry, no, this everything.
The main verses. Kunjamadi Rajayana Shana. It's just part of it, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
The later part of it.
Maybe switch to something else and do this later, and if something else is easier.
Okay, the next is Vrinda Mataji with Radha Krishna Gita.
Sham.
That's all for now. And as it's fasting until midday, then still will be at 1 o'clock. And this evening's program will start at 5 o'clock, 5 through to 7. There'll be some more Bhajans and some talks. And we have any special guest speakers today?
Yes, his guest Kripamaya Prabhu.
We'll be speaking for
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock live or pre-recorded?
Live.
For
Half an hour.
half an hour, great. Okay, so we look forward to that, everybody. Shri Shri Radhastami ki
Jai.
Rani Mahamotsa Tuesday ki
Jai.
Tagore Prem Nandi.
Hari Bol.